Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
OTAs beginning up, voluntary OTAs beginning for the Pack and for the NFL this week and such. So we'll see some, or we'll hear from coaches and some of the players tomorrow when it's open for media availability, practice, and a little bit of chit-chat with the coach and some of the players, so limited access there. But nonetheless, it's a chance for the rookies to get some work in with the veterans and such. And I think, one player, I don't think I'm kind of speaking out of turn here or speaking for maybe the majority of Packers Nation out there. I think one connection that we're all anxious to see how it's all going to play out and such is going to be Jordan Love and Matthew Golden, the first-round pick, wide receiver and such. I think we're all curious and excited to see those two, develop an instant connection right away. Matthew Golden was in Appleton participating in Jordan Love's charity softball tournament, a tradition that has really, it started off with Favre initially doing it, I believe. Then Donald Driver took it over for the longest time. I think Jordy Nelson did it for a hot minute. Maybe he co-ed it with Clay Matthews. I think there was a co-year one year. Donald Driver's still heavily involved in it and that. Now Jordan Love is doing it and such. So, I did it. I went 1 year. Was it 2010? I went when Donald Driver still did it. Aaron Rodgers participated in it and such. But so it's kind of become a tradition now, where they have the charity softball game. It's moved dates. This was in May. I remember going in, was it June or July? I can't remember. It might have been July, right before training camp opened. Anyways, but Matthew Golden participated in it, and reading some of the quotes here from Matthew Golden on why he volunteered to play in Love's charity game. Said, quote, "You always got to be there for your quarterback." I think everybody appreciated that. But Jordan Love, some comments about Matthew Golden, said he's a great dude. I'm excited to see just his potential on the football field, but just the start we've had doing routes on air and things like that, he looks like a stud, looks like a very polished receiver. So I'm excited to see just how far he can take it. So those were just a little bit of the comments from Jordan Love and Matthew Golden. And again, I think this is the pairing. This connection. I think a lot of us Packers fans are anxious to see if they can hit the ground running on this. Now, we're not going to know until week 1 when they take on the Lions or in the early parts of the regular season. We're not going to know if there's going to be an instant connection and such. We'll see a little bit in maybe preseason football. We'll see a little bit in training camp practices and such and joint practices or whatever, but we won't know the full-on answer until we get to the regular season and that. But I think there's no question about we're hearing a lot of the right things. We're hearing a lot of positive stuff when it comes to Matthew Golden and such, but we want to see it on the field. That's when the real answers will come out. But man, that to me is, if we were to rank or list, the things you're most excited about when it comes to maybe preseason or training camp. And training camp, we got a couple months yet till training camp. Okay, we're in baseball season right now and such. But with some OTAs coming up here and that, what are like the most? What are some of the things that just have you like really excited or really intrigued about? With some of these off-season workouts or these preseason stuff, like we could say, well, I'm really excited to see player A. We heard so and so's added so much muscle or all that. I want to see Matthew Golden and Jordan Love. I want to see that speed on full display. It gets so focused on, it gets so talked about his speed in sub 4.3 40. That's blazing speed when you're talking about a guy who ran a 4.29. There's no question. But the thing that I think doesn't get talked enough about Matthew Golden is the route running that he displays. And his ability, drop percentage is down there. You look at what did Green Bay struggle with a lot last year? Drops from their wide receivers, maybe a little bit of timing, a little bit of issues with the route running, fine-tuning some of the things. So, yes, Matthew Golden displays that top-end speed. But the other things that he brings to the table, I think, probably should be focused on or maybe highlighted a little bit more is when you look at what he did at college at Texas and what he potentially brings to the table for Green Bay this year is the route running ability and the consistency of making the catch. Two things that I think Green Bay receivers took a step back from last year. Struggled a little bit last year. I think the quarterback, in a first glimpse when we're watching the game live and the quarterback, makes a throw and maybe it's a little bit off target with the wide receiver. A lot of us are quick to blame an inaccurate throw from Jordan Love. But if it's based off timing and it's based off marks, which a lot of it is, some of that blame needs to go to the wide receiver for not hitting that mark. It's a game of inches, right? To quote Al Pacino on Any Given Sunday. Life's this game of inches, and so is football. Football is a game of inches, and when you've got timing routes where you're supposed to break at a certain point here, and you're not completely on the same page as your quarterback, that inch can make all the difference in the world from maybe a great play, maybe a touchdown, to a missed pass, to an interception. Game of inches. And I hope Matthew Golden and Jordan Love hit the ground running. Now, I personally feel, this is just me, but I personally feel that we're not, we're going to see Jordan Love target Matthew Golden early. Now, I feel like Jordan Love, and I'm going to throw Aaron Rodgers in this question because let's say everything's the same, but sub in Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love. Matthew Golden would be going through in his rookie season, he'd be going through a growing process, a growing season. Because, again, when it talked about Rodgers, what was always the thing? Trust. You got to earn my trust. If you don't earn my trust, you ain't getting the rock. You ain't getting the ball. And eventually, okay, and I understood that. I understand that. But for a lot of that time, though, too, during that Rodgers era, he had the luxury of other receivers ready to go and already having that trust. When Davante comes in, you could Google it, but there was that Players Tribune article from a few years ago about Davante, and Davante wrote it. And he talks about, his rookie season with Aaron. And there was a play that Davante knew. He's like, okay, the ball's not coming to me. So he kind of was lackadaisical in his route, didn't really try hard. And Aaron threw the ball towards him, threw it out of bounds, and, said some profanity and barked at the sideline to say, get him out of here. Okay, well, Aaron and Davante ended up developing a pretty darn good relationship after that and a pretty darn good 1-2 punch. But Green Bay, and for the most part of Aaron's tenure there, they had when Davante was a rookie, they had some other options there. We talked about it. It was like next man up. And that was just a credit to Ted Thompson as general manager, always having that next receiver ready. But, so Aaron kind of maybe like, okay, I got to demand that trust. And he was always, pinpoint, wanting this, wanting that. I personally feel like it's different now with Jordan Love there. You play a little bit more within the offense. You play a little bit more within Matt LaFleur's style of offense where, all right, we're spreading the ball around. We're going to scheme to get guys open. Yes, you're going to have your first reads, your second reads, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have your go-to guys. That's a foregone conclusion in any offense. But I feel like Jordan Love and playing within the offense right now is going to create opportunities for Matthew Golden to right away be effective within this offense. Because I honestly feel like, and I don't think I'd be alone in this, but if you subbed in Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love, how much of an effect would Matthew Golden have on a team his rookie year? I don't know. Because, his first drop? Is he just going to ignore him or not look his way? You know what I mean? We all know what we're talking about here, right? I mean, that's happened. How many times has that happened? It's like, oh, no. You can go back to the Twitter feeds and just look it up. Receiver drops it, means Aaron's going to ignore him. So I feel like what's going to benefit Matthew Golden here a lot, too, is that he's going to be put into a system. He's going to be put into an offense, this Matt LaFleur offense. That, okay, he's got other options. He's got a Jayden Reed. He's got a Tucker Kraft. There's a Romeo in there, too. You got a good running game. There's not going to be a lot on Matthew Golden's shoulders right away. He's got other playmakers, but he's going to be put into an offense that's going to help him out and going to help him succeed. But he's going to play with a quarterback, too, that's going to give him some chances. And if he makes, a drop or something like that, he's not going to be shunned like 12 might have been doing at the end of his career. But I'm excited to see what these two can do. Love is golden. All right? And you get ready for a lot of memes and a lot of corny phrases for the upcoming season and such. But I hope these two can hit the ground running because Matthew Golden is a unique type of receiver in this offense. We focus on the speed so much, and we focus on that straight line speed from Golden. But don't forget to factor in his route running ability and how well he catches the football, securing the football. Two areas of weakness that really, I think, reared its ugly head for Green Bay last year. And I'm curious to see how Matt LaFleur employs all these different players into this offense. I'm expecting some new stuff this year. I'm expecting some new facets to this offense. Mecole Hardman's there. I don't know. I don't think he's a guarantee to make the roster. I think he probably will. If I had to make a roster prediction on March or on May 27th, I think he probably does. But I'm expecting some new stuff when you factor him in there, Matthew Golden in there. You want to get Tucker Kraft more involved in the ball. They ran the ball very heavy last year. Are they going to run it as heavy this year? Maybe not. But I'm curious, intrigued, and excited to see what LaFleur. And I think LaFleur, let's face it too, the way the season ended last year, there were some fans that were like, okay, LaFleur, a little annoyed with you, a little frustrated with you. They're expecting some big things this year, whether it's right or wrong. But let's see this creative play schemes. Let's see these dynamic play calls come to fruition this year.